Welcome back, lottery fans. Today I'm going to show you how to do some backtracing of numbers. So whenever I do the rundowns, what I like to do is I always like to go back and backtrace to see whether or not the rundowns are working in particular states. And you may have seen these in previous videos I've done where I've gone back and shown you dates I pulled out for numbers and show you where those winning numbers are coming up and stuff like that. I've had a lot of questions from people asking me how I find those dates and how I decide which dates to pull from and stuff like that. As well as a lot of questions around just how to do backtracing in general, because I always say whenever you're trying a new rundown, go ahead and backtrace that rundown to see whether or not it's working. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through my process today of how I pick a rundown and then backtrace it against a specific state to see whether or not it's working for that state. So no fancy rundown worksheet this time. All you're going to need is a blank piece of paper, and you might actually need several blank pieces of paper because it does take a little bit of time to go ahead and do some backtracing. It's not a simple case of just a few minutes of testing and you're done. Quite often I'll spend half an hour in each state, or maybe up to an hour, maybe depending on how long, how well the state is hitting and how many different rundowns I have to try. But I'm going to show you a very simple example of a simple rundown. I'm going to show you one state to show you how I actually work the backtracing, and then you'll have the idea of the process and you go ahead and start doing it yourself. So as I said, I start with a blank piece of paper, and what I go ahead and start doing is I'll go ahead and find basically the last 10 to 15 days of lottery results for a specific state. So for the example I'm going to show you, we're actually going to backtrace the Pick 4 lottery for Illinois, and specifically the Illinois midday. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll look at the last couple of weeks worth of history, and you can do that by going to lotterypredictor.com. There's a lot of states already added there with a complete comprehensive back history of lottery results, or you can find your state lottery website and find the history there. But specifically for this example, I've already printed out the last 2 weeks worth of results for the Illinois midday lottery. It's a little hard to see on the camera, but you can definitely go to lotterypredictor.com and get this as well. And what I'll do is I'll start by deciding which rundown I want to do to start with, and for this example I'm just going to do the very simple tic-tac-toe reverse counting up method, and I'll show you how that rundown works as I walk through this. And then to see whether or not the rundown is actually working for the state, I'll go back about 10 days and I'll pick the result from 10 days ago. So today is the 6th of April. So if you look at the results here for Illinois, the midday lottery here, so we've got the 6th of April here. And if I go all the way back, and unfortunately the camera's not focusing very well, but I'll go back about 10 days, and I'll start with the first date being the 28th of March. So the 28th of March, and I'll pick that result there. So on the 28th of March, the result was, on my results here, a 4741. And then what I'll go ahead to do is I'll go ahead and sketch out the basic rundown that I want to go with. And as I said, we're going to do just a very generic rundown this time. We're going to go ahead and do the reverse counting up. And the way that works is we'll put the result in a diagonal box on here. So 4, 7, 4, 1. And then we'll count up in a reverse, in an anti-clockwise pattern on this. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3. So now I've got my rundown grid here. Now what I'll do is I'll starting on the 28th, I'll look at all the results that came afterwards and test to see whether or not these results, so from the 28th onward, I'll test to see whether these results actually show up in the grid that I've just pointed out here. So on the 29th we had a 1440. So I'll look in my grid here and I'll see if I can find a 1440. And what I'm looking for is the 1440 that are all connected. So I've got a 140 here, but I don't have a 1440. So the 29th didn't show up in this grid. Then I'll go back to the next day. Next day was the 30th. We got a 4687. So I'll look in my grid again and I'll look for a 4687. And I am actually seeing that here. So 4687 is actually this one right here. So what I consider to be in the grid is all the numbers have to be connected. They can be a box. It doesn't have to be a straight. It can be a box, but they all have to be connected. So now that I've seen that the number on the 30th was in here, the 4687, I'll note down that date. So 3:30. That was in this grid as well. Then I'll go to the next date. The next date is the 31st, and we had a 5579. So I'll look in my grid again, and I'm looking for a 5579. And I'm not seeing a 5579. And some of the ways in which you can shortcut how easy it is to spot these numbers is in this result here, we've got 2 5s, so we need to have at least 2 5s in our grid. And I know looking at this grid, I don't actually have 2 5s in that grid, so the pattern can't exist, that number can't exist in this grid because I just don't have 2 5s. So nothing on the 31st. On the 1st of April, we had a 6548. So I'll look at the grid again, and I'll be looking for a 6548. I see a 654, but the 8 is not connected. So we've got the 654 on the top line, but the 8 actually isn't connected to that. So I can't actually go ahead and call that pattern. So it wasn't on the 1st. On the 2nd, we had a 0791. So I see a 109, but once again, the 7 isn't connected, so that actually didn't show up there either. On the 3rd, we had a 9497. And we don't have 2 9s in this grid, so that number couldn't show up. And then we had on the 4th a 3695. So I see a 6 and a 5 and a 3, but the 9 is all the way in the corner here, so that wasn't connected either. So that's not there. And then we had a 7972, and I see 772, but once again 9 is not connected, so that wasn't in there. And then on the 6th, which was today, we had a 2889. And there's only one 8 in the grid, so we don't have 2 8s, so that wasn't there. So on the 28th, that base number, 4741, because we only hit 1 out of the last 10 days, I would say that's not a good number. So I wouldn't actually use the 28th as my base number. So now that I've done 1, what I'll do is I'll start back tracing from there onto previous days and see whether or not previous dates are actually working as well. And that's it. You can definitely start forward tracing, so you can go to the 29th of March and start doing that, but I always like to back trace. I find that gets a little bit better with the back tracing. So now I'll say, so that didn't work there, that was a big cross there, we're not going to do the 28th, so let's go ahead and try the 27th. And on the 27th, our result was a 0748. So we'll go ahead and we'll draw our tic-tac-toe grid again, and we'll fill in our rundown. So once again, using that same anti-clockwise counting up pattern, we're filling in the number in the diagonal here, and then we're counting up from the bottom right, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. And then what we'll go ahead and do is we'll run through all the results from the 27th onward to see if they were in this pattern as well. So same process we used for the 28th, now we're doing it for the 27th because we've actually generated a different grid because we've got a different base number that we're using here. So let's go ahead and do that quickly here. So on the 28th we had a 4741, we know that because that was this number here. And I see a 474, but 1 is all the way up in the corner here, it's not connected, so that one wasn't a hit there. 29th was a 1440. And I see a 404, but once again the 1 is off in the corner here, so that didn't hit there. Then we had a 4687 on the 30th, so we have a 4687, so I see that down in the bottom corner here, 4687. So we can go ahead and mark that off as in that grid there, 4678. So that was a box hit there. So we'll go ahead and we'll note that date. That was the 30th. So interestingly enough, 30th hit on both of these grids. Our next number is a 5579. So once again, we only have 1 5 in this grid, so we know the double 5 can't be in there. Going up to the 1st of April, we had 6548. So looking for a 6548 in the grid here. Let's go ahead and see. We've got a 5, a 4, a 6, but the 8 is separate there, so that's not on this grid either. On the next day on the second, we have a 0791, and I'm seeing that right here, 1097, so 0791. So that's another box hit there. So we can go ahead and mark that off on the grid, and we'll write the date of that as well. So on 4-2 we had a hit out of this grid. On 4-3 we had a 9497, and looking at that I see that right away here, 9497 right there. There's another one there, so we'll go ahead and mark that off on our grid. 9497, and we'll go ahead and we'll write that, so 4-3. Then on 4-4 we had 3695, so we have a 3 but no 6, 9, 5. No, I'm not seeing any connected, so 3695. Nope, unfortunately they are not connected, so that's not in this grid either. Then on 4-5 we had a 7972, so we've got a 792, but the other 7 is down here, so not connected, so that wasn't there either. And then on 6 we had a 2889. Let's go ahead and look here. We've got a 2889. Nope, and once again that wasn't connected there either. So nothing there. So we only actually had 3 hits out of that. So 3 hits is okay, but I generally typically set a minimum of about 4 hits. So I won't be happy until I get at least 4 hits out of a date. So we could definitely run with 327, but only 3 hits in what, 11 days that is now. That's a little bit questionable. So I'll probably keep going. So we'll cross it out and we'll backtrack one more day. So let's go to the 26th of March. So on the 26th of March, our result was a 1049. So let's go ahead and draw out our grid again. Like that. Fill in our rundown. We should all know this by now, using the reverse counting up method. Starting at the bottom right, go ahead and 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 0. And then we'll start again going through our past results and going ahead and seeing if these past results show up on our grid. So now that we're starting with the 326, our first result we're going to check is 327, which is a 0746. So we're looking for a 0746, and I'm actually seeing that right here, 7604. So right there, right off the bat, we have 1 hit there. So we'll mark it off on the grid. We'll write down the date. So 327. That was our first hit there. Next day we had a 4741. Let's go ahead and look in this. We've got a 414, but 7 is in the right. It's not is in the left here, so it's not connected there. So that wasn't hit. After that, on the 29th, we had a 1440, and I'm seeing 1014. So 1440. So that was another box hit. So we can mark that one off right there. So that was on the 29th. So we'll go ahead and write that date in there. On the 30th, we had a 4687. So 4687. I'm seeing that pattern right there. All these 4 connected numbers. 6784 4687. So there we go. That was another hit there. So already this one's looking actually pretty good. In the first 4 days we actually had 3 hits. So this is starting to show up to be a fairly strong one. On the 31st we had a 5579. Well, once again we only have 1 5 in this grid, so we know that can't exist. So moving on to the first, we had a 6548. So 6584. 6584. So that was a hit there. 6584. And as you start going through these, and as you start doing a lot more backtracking, you'll start to see these patterns in the grid very easily. To start with, you might have to pay real close attention and definitely look a bit harder. But once you've done a few, your mind will start focusing on the number patterns, and they'll start popping out to you a lot more frequently. So what was that? That was on the 1st, so we'll go ahead and mark that down. April 1st. And then on April 2nd, we had a 0791. So let's see here. And then here we go again. 9017. These 4 numbers right here, all connected. So these and this one here. So that's another pattern there. So 42. So already in that first week, we've had 5 hits in 7 days. So this right here is one that I would actually start playing. And then we can carry on. We can definitely go ahead and check all the other numbers here. So we got on the 3rd, we had a 9497. So there's a 994, but 7's in the left-hand corner not connected, so that wasn't a hit. On the 4th, we had a 3695. So we have 6 and 5 here, 3's all the way over here, and 9's all the way over here, so those are not connected. On the 5th, we had a 7972. So here's our 7, and our 2's are completely opposite in the 9. There's no 2, there's only one 7 on this grid, so that's definitely not going to hit. And finally on the 6th, we had a 2889. And once again, we only have one 8 in this grid, so that's not a hit. So it's certainly taken a break for the last couple of days, but because we had 5 hits in that first week, this to me is a very strong rundown for the Illinois midday. So I would definitely go ahead and keep playing this rundown. So there we go. That's how I do my research. This was fairly quick. This was, 15 minutes to do just 3 rundowns, and we found a pattern that was hitting. You may not find that the same rundown works for all states. You should definitely go ahead and try different rundowns. But hopefully by showing you the process that I go through, you'll now be able to go ahead and start doing your own research. Definitely check out my other videos to see some of the rundowns that you can start practicing with. Get ideas for rundowns that might be hitting in your state. And if you try this out and you see a rundowns working for your state, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear the different rundowns that are working. I've seen a lot of great comments where people have tried the rundowns I've tried and have been hitting numbers and winning money, and that always makes me very happy to hear that. If you like this video, please definitely give me a thumbs up. If you want me to try, do another video of backtracing with maybe some different methods and stuff like that, definitely let me know. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.